Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, and I welcome you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, a rapido fuego review of the brand new Ridley Scott movie that nobody went to the theater to see, regrettably. We are talking The Last Duel.
A most unspeakable charge has been brought against you.
Jacques Legris entered our home. He attacked me.
The accusation is false.
I am telling the truth.
The truth does not matter. There is only the power of men.
This should be settled quietly.
I'm innocent!
I request a duel to the death.
If you lose, your wife will suffer dire consequences.
One of us has lied. Let us let God decide.
Based on the 2004 book of the same name, which chronicled this duel between two knights of sorts in 14th century France. And the cast is stacked. You've got a script by Nicole Holofcener that also was collaborated on with none other than Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Yeah, I think it's their first time actually working on a screenplay since Good Will Hunting, so that's kind of a thing. Cast has both of those dudes. You've also got Adam Driver, Jodie Comer. I mean, yes, there's so much talent, and this is, being Ridley Scott, an absolutely amazing looking movie. It's on par with some of these period stuff that he has done. Now, I didn't like the Exodus movie, and I wasn't too big on the, I think it was Kingdom of Heaven, and yet Gladiator obviously like set a precedent majorly, and so this movie isn't all action though, and so while it's very good when we get it, and relatively brutal as well, props on that, you wouldn't expect anything less from a Ridley Scott directed period film that has action and fighting and things of that nature. But it's really this fascinating character study about how people perceive things. Most notably, this really terrible incident that they mentioned in the trailer. And so Matt Damon's wife accuses the Adam Driver character of raping her. And then the person who is kind of pulling the strings in regards to if there is even going to be any accusations, up to the next level of like trial and other things of that nature, is none other than Ben Affleck, who is delightfully skeevy in this role. Like, seriously, he's hedonistic, and yeah, he gives a very amusing performance in this. But it's told in 3 acts, and that's where I get into the perspective portion, and that's what made this film so interesting to me. Is you get the first portion is from Damon's perspective and how he not only perceives himself, but his marriage and his friendship with Driver's character. And then the second one is where we get Adam Driver, who is the accused, and just what he thinks, whether he's guilty or not, and just how he views this, not only the accusations, but the actual incident when it transpired. And then lastly, we get Comer's character, Jodie Comer, and the actual woman who has, the incident happened to, the victim in this situation, obviously. And that's where the sequencing is terrific in this movie, and I really enjoyed the fact that they approached it in that fashion of viewpoint, and just how things are nuanced and different in that regard depending on who you're seeing it through the eyes of in these 3 different acts. So that's really fascinating, really cool, and just pretty brilliant filmmaking and approach to the script. And then performances from everybody. This ensemble is great. Damon, he's virtuous Matt Damon, but maybe not quite as virtuous as he perceives himself to be, maybe a little bit schmucky. And then you've got Driver, who, Driver is great in everything that he does. Whether the marriage film with Scarlett Johansson, he was the only really interesting thing for me that was a constant interesting facet of the sequel Star Wars trilogy as Kylo Ren. And yeah, he's funny too. I've seen him in some great comedy work. And so yeah, that guy, everybody in this ensemble, as I said, is pretty terrific. And it's beautifully shot. There's lots of color correction going down. It does have that grayish bluishness going on, but the locations and the costuming and just the lighting, the usage of like torches and things of that nature to actually, illuminate these, it felt so very period specific and proper, and I would not expect anything less from Ridley Scott. And everything that his Scott-free productions have put together and released has, at least from a visual point, maybe some of the storytelling hasn't been exceptional, but anything that his team produces, his production team, his production house, I guess is the proper term, has just looked absolutely fantastic. So expect nothing less. But the thing that I think is the biggest travesty of this film is that I think the contingent of people that would go out to the theater to see this film, they're a lot older than me, you know? They're like my parents' age. And I think with the fact that the world is still kind of figuring out all of this, variants of things, and people who have been punched up still being able to become sick with things that we're not supposed to like mention directly in our YouTube videos, but I can at least hint at it. I think that this older contingent that would have flocked to this sort of thing, they are not going to theaters, or they're just, you know, or maybe the advertising campaign, which was moderate and not too bad. I mean, it wasn't like just thrown under the bus or anything. This was put together by the former 20th Century Fox, which is now 20th Century Studios, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I think it's a real just sad situation in the fact that I think in more normal times this film would have had a much bigger audience, because it like legit bombed at the box office, which is a real shame because it's damn good. It's captivating and it's fascinating and pretty much everything across the board. This is upper echelon Ridley Scott, in my opinion. Now, no, it's not as good as Gladiator, but it is better than Exodus and Kingdom of Heaven in my estimation, the more action-centric. This has a much more interesting character study behind it, and granted, it's obviously nothing like his sci-fi output like Blade Runner and Alien and stuff, but this is one of the better things that I have seen Ridley Scott put together in quite a while, and so, yeah, this is definitely going to get 4 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. This is a Fuego film faux show, and since it's still in theaters right now, guys, it's been out for a couple weeks now, if you are inclined, you feel safe, and want to see just what feels like really old school Hollywood, washed up Hollywood, but not in this case, you know? This feels along the lines, to a degree, of like the Ben-Hurs and Lawrence of Arabia's and I mean, so many of the great period piece films that we got in many decades past, you know, in the first half of the 20th century. And so I cannot recommend The Last Duel enough, but just don't expect something that is like action-centric throughout. This has a lot more of a just dramatic feel to it, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. So, extend grande gracias, Jaime En Fuego. You can find more on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. More reviews coming this week, with October finally being over and the craziness at the horror show subsiding a little bit. So yeah, you're going to see a review of The Eternals. Probably going to check out the Spencer film, which is about Princess Diana, starring none other than Kristen Stewart, who is an actress that has grown on me over the years. I think that she's very talented, even though she's done a lot of popcorn fluff at times. I think she's very versatile, and so I'm curious about that performance and how they tackle that controversial subject matter, because the royal family and Dai's Inner Circle are already kind of getting on that. So those are some things to look forward to, and yes, once more, thank you so very much, danke, arigato, merci, for checking out the video, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant viewers and readers occasionally alike, say thank you, hope we have been well met, and that we share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later, and until then, remember, if you are up to it, definitely go and support the theaters.